All right, Ted. In particular, the songbirds. I mean, I'm sympathetic to that, although the ones in Georgia tend to wake me up. But songbirds are at stake, as well as other small animals. When we say feral cats, frankly, I don't think of Fluffy at home. I think of a wild cat, an alley cat on the street, no better than maybe a cockroach.
Wow, I would certainly like to work on making sure that we correct some of the misimpressions that have been left out there, especially when it comes to those numbers. First of all, a feral cat is not a wild cat. It's just an unsocialized domestic cat. And our animal cruelty laws currently in Wisconsin protect those cats. And so what we want to do is really make sure that we had good science before we went into this. When we looked at Q62, we realized that, as Bert wasn't very sure of those numbers, and those numbers you referred to are the Dr. Stanley Temple study, are highly questionable. And as you said, those are estimates, and they're not at all scientific data. This is not published scientific data we're talking about. This is a study, not a study at all, in fact, a report that was published over 10 years ago. This is not new information. It's completely based on estimates that are wildly exaggerated. It's really based on the relationship between Dr. Stanley Temple and the American Bird Conservancy, which is probably the most rabidly anti-cat special interest lobby group in the United States. So I don't know that we can take Dr. Stanley Temple's science seriously. Well, I first heard about Stan Temple when I realized that almost every news story that came out had an interesting range of numbers. They were estimating the amount of birds killed in Wisconsin between specifically 7.8 million and 219 million. That this study had been really found to be quite handy at describing or demonizing, to some degree, the impact of cats.
Birds are not native species. Many of the birds that they hunt are not native species. And that study that was done, I have a master's degree in political science, and I can assure you that study that was done is not worth the paper that it's written on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep, over here and with
Monday, 11:06 p.m. Line 1.
You cat murdering bastard. What goes around comes around. I declare Stanley Temple season open.
So, that was one of them.
How many of those did you get?
Oh, between messages on the answering machine and email, probably 8 or 9.
death threats.
Things like this that were, yeah, either, well, I mean, open season on Stan Temple, the police said, no, that's a death threat. But, yeah. In the middle of the night, cars would drive into our driveway and circle in front of the house and then leave. There were threatening notes tacked up on the door of my office, which again they considered to be a very serious escalation of the level of threat over just making a phone call or sending an email, to actually have come up and tacked something to my office door, risked, you know, an encounter with me or having other people see them. So it was an interesting month. Don't shoot the messenger. I had nothing to do with the proposal, was silent on endorsing it or opposing it. My research was mentioned sort of as justification for why we needed to do something, perhaps this.